Hello, children. We're back again for chapter 2. I hope that these recordings are helpful. Today, for this recording, I printed out the questions. So as I read through the book, I'll make sure to pause and let you know where exactly each question is. That way you can pause the video, quick go to your packet and answer them separately. Also, if it's easier for you to answer questions on a separate sheet of paper, you don't need to rewrite the question. You can just number them. I think this chapter has 23 questions. But again, it's a lot of information. Some opinion questions. A lot of these aren't meant to be long. So yeah, there's 22 questions. So we're focusing on chapter 2, Auschwitz Time Flies. What I like about this book, which is something that I want to point out to you, is that because they're using mice, they're able to be a little bit more graphic. Okay, this is the great thing about graphic novels, is that, let's see if I can erase this bigger. There we go, perfect. Is that they're able to use these pictures to show graphic things without it being absolutely horrible. If this was people being burned alive, illustrated to you, it would have been definitely a little dramatic. So let us begin chapter 2, Time Flies. Time flies. Now, this is the author, Art. He's kind of taking himself out of this situation. He is writing this book after his father's already passed away. So this is, again, more of a flashback. Okay, this first page is very important. Time flies. Vladek died of congestive heart failure on August 18th, 1982. Francois and I stayed with him in the Catskills back in August 1979. Vladek started working as a tinman in Auschwitz in the spring of 1944. I started working on this page at the very end of February 1987. In May 1987, Francois and I are expecting a baby. Between May 16th, 1944 and May 24th, 1944, over 100,000 Hungarian Jews were gassed in Auschwitz. In September 1986, after 8 years of work, the first part of Maus was published. It was a critical and commercial success. At least 15 foreign editions are coming out. I've gotten 4 serious offers to turn my book into a TV special or a movie. I don't wanna. In May 1968, my mother killed herself. She left no note. Lastly, I've been feeling depressed. All right, Mr. Spiegelman, we're getting ready to shoot. So we're reading Maus 2. Let's pause for a sec. We're reading Maus 2. This book was originally put into 2 parts. One is everything leading up to Vladek and his wife being sent to Auschwitz, and then everything after. So as Art Spiegelman is writing Maus 2, Maus 1 already has won its award. It's been a very big deal. At the bottom of this page, this is going to be your the answer for question number 2. So Art is here drawing, and then he's sitting on top of a mountain of dead bodies. Okay, they're all mouse bodies. They're deteriorating. We can only assume that these are dead Holocaust survivors. That's pretty much what we're getting here. Okay, so keep that in mind as we're going forward. What is a representation of Art working on top of a mountain of dead bodies? What does that show us? Okay, so next page. Tell our viewers what message you want them to get from your book. A message? I don't know. I never thought of reducing it to a message. I mean, I wasn't trying to convince anybody of anything. I just wanted, your book is being translated into German. Many younger Germans have had it up to here with Holocaust stories. These things happened before they were even born. Why should they feel guilty? Who am I to say? But a lot of corporations that flourished in Nazi Germany are richer than ever. I don't know. Maybe everyone has to feel guilty. Everyone forever. Okay, let's talk about Israel. If your book was about Israeli Jews, what kind of animal would you draw? I have no idea. Porcupines? Alrighty, baby. Check it out. This licensing deal. You get 50% of the profits. We'll make $1 million. Your dad would be proud. Huh? Mouse, you read the book? Now buy the vest. So what do you want? A bigger percentage? Hey, we can talk. I want absolution. No, I want my mommy. Could you tell our audience if drawing Maus was cathartic? Do you feel better now? Wah. This is another question that helps answer number 1 and number 3. So number 1, why is Artie feeling some type of way about writing this whole book? He feels very conflicted. And the last bit, you see at the beginning of this page, he's a grown man. But at the bottom, he kind of changes into this very small figure. So your question number 3 says, what is the symbolism of Artie physically getting smaller and smaller between pages 41 and 43? He continues to look like a little baby, and that's how he draws himself. Why would the author draw himself looking like a small child? Okay, that's your answer for number 3. Why would he draw himself as a small child? Okay, top of page 43. Whew, they're gone. Sometimes I just don't feel like a functioning adult. There's your answer right there. He's not an adult. He's a child. I can't believe I'm going to be a father in a couple of months. My father's ghost still hangs over me. It's 9:30 p.m. already. I've got to head uptown for my appointment with Pavel. Pavel is my shrink. He sees patients at night. He's a Czech Jew, a survivor of Terezin and Auschwitz. I see him once a week. Again, Artie is walking through dead bodies. Okay, he's constantly surrounded by dead bodies, flies from the rotting corpses. What does this show you? His place is overrun with stray cats and dogs. Hi, Art, come on in. Can I mention this, or does it completely loose up my metaphor? So, how are you feeling? Completely messed up. I mean, things couldn't be going better with my career or at home, but mostly I feel like crying. I can't work. My time is being sucked up by interviews and business propositions I can't deal with. But when I'm left alone, I'm totally blocked. Instead of working on my book, I just lie on my couch for hours and stare at a small grease spot on the upholstery. It's a framed cat. Just because. Somehow, my arguments with my father have lost a little of their urgency. In Auschwitz, it seems too scary to think about, so I just lie there. It sounds like you're feeling remorse. Maybe you believe you exposed your father to ridicule. Maybe, but I tried to be fair and still show how angry I felt. Even so, every boy when he's little looks up to his father. That sounds true, but it's hard for me to remember. Mainly, I remember arguing with him and being told that I couldn't do anything as well as he could. And now that you're becoming successful, you feel bad about proving your father wrong. No matter what I accomplish, it doesn't seem like much compared to surviving Auschwitz. But you weren't in Auschwitz. You were in Rego Park. Maybe your father needed to show that he was always right, that he could always survive because he felt guilty about surviving. Maybe. And he took his guilt out on you, where it was safe, on the real survivor. Tell me, do you feel any guilt about surviving the camps? No, just sadness. All right, we're going to pause here really quick because there's a lot to unpack here. Okay, so we have a couple questions that you're going to answer. So again, Artie is still a small child going to a therapist. Okay, that's symbolic right there. Sometimes we feel much smaller than anything else. So for number 4, it says, Artie says, no matter what I accomplish, it doesn't seem like much compared to surviving Auschwitz. What does this show you about Artie's sense of self and his relationship with his father? So the quote is right here, okay? So Artie feels that even though, that's for number 4, even though he has been very successful, he's gone to college, he's gotten married, he's, a functioning human in society. It doesn't feel like much compared to surviving Auschwitz. So in Artie's mind, he can never truly be an equal to or experience something like his father did. It kind of hangs over it. It talks a lot about guilt and how the guilt kind of stays with you, okay? A lot of times, survivors feel guilty about surviving. Sometimes they're the only ones in their family to have made it out alive. That's a lot of guilt. So along with Artie not being able to find what makes him successful, he also is constantly fighting against his father, who's now dead, which doesn't help things, and as you saw in the first chapter, is unbearable. He never feels like he can be successful because his father survived something horrible, and he can never live up to that, okay? That's kind of focusing on number 4 in your packet, okay? Number 5. Your answer is right over here. I'm going to put it in, let's do pink. Okay? Number 5. Okay? Pavel, his therapist, says maybe your father needed to show that he was always right, that he could always survive because he felt guilty about surviving. That is your answer to number 5. Vladik could have felt guilty about surviving. Okay, we just talked about this. And that's why he always has to be right. He can't be wrong, has to be right. Okay, so those are your answers for number 4 and 5. They both have the page numbers on it, so if you get lost. All right, let us move on. All right. Remember, Pavel was also a survivor of the camp, so he does know, to an extent, what Artie's father has gone through. This is another idea about, this whole page is talking about the difference between surviving and living. A lot of you answered this question. I'm not even gonna try it. Can I type on here? No? I don't even know, people. Surviving. Okay, let's try something else. Please hold. All right, guys. Sorry about the confusion. So this looks a little bit different, but we're still where we need to be. All right, so let me just go back to what I was talking about. So this whole page is the idea of deciding if surviving and living are the same. Okay? It was an essential question we had talked about. You had answered it. And it's something that people struggle with often. We see that theme coming to life a lot in To Kill a Mockingbird as well. Just because you're going through the motions, are you really surviving or are you really living? So top page 45. So, do you admire your father for surviving? Well, sure. I know there was a lot of luck involved, and he was amazingly present-minded and resourceful. Then you think it's admirable to survive. Does that mean it's not admirable to not survive? Whew. I think I see what you mean. It's as if life equals winning, so death equals losing. Yes, life is always taking the side of life, but somehow the victims are blamed. But it wasn't the best people who survived, nor did the best ones die. It was random. I'm not talking about your book now, but look at how many books have already been written about the Holocaust. What's the point? People haven't changed. Maybe they need a newer, bigger Holocaust. Anyway, the victims who died can never tell their side of the story. So maybe it's better to not have any more stories. Samuel Beckett once said, every word is like an unnecessary stain on the silence of nothingness. Yes. On the other hand, he said it. He was right. Maybe you should include that in your book. My book? What book? I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Oop, not that much. Some part of me doesn't want to draw or think about Auschwitz. I can't visualize it clearly, and I can't begin to imagine what it felt like. What Auschwitz felt like. How can I explain? Boo! It felt a lot like that, but always, from the moment you got to the gate until the very end. So, what part of your book are you trying to visualize? My father worked in a tin shop near the camp. I have no idea what kind of tools and stuff to draw. There's no documentation. Let's see. There would have been a cutter, like a giant paper cutter, and maybe an electric drill press or two. How do you know that? Oh, I worked in a tool and die shop in Czechoslovakia when I was a kid. But it's getting late now, and I have to still walk my dogs. Okay, I'll see you in a week. Gee, I don't exactly understand why these sessions with Pavel somehow make me feel better. Maybe I could show the tin shop and not draw the drill press. I hate to draw machinery. So after a session with Pavel, we see Artie leaving as a child, but then slowly becoming kind of back to his adult session. So really this therapy session brings him out of this kind of childlike state that he's in. And that's important to note. A lot of times authors bring a lot of their own this book is very personal. So he's bringing his own personality into the story. And it's really not only just a story about a Holocaust survivor, but the child of a Holocaust survivor as well.